examining portraits of the grace of God. Now, a portrait is a similitude of the actual person. It is not the real and living, breathing person who we know. But a portrait reminds us of the features of our acquaintance, friend, or family member. So it is in the Scriptures. God has given us portraits of His divine features. And time and again, the abundance of God's grace is certainly held forth very prominently. I suspect for many of us, we find the account of Joseph in Genesis to be one of our most favorite Bible stories, or the favorite Bible story. Joseph was a man of sterling character, godly man, and the instrument through which God provided not only for Jacob and his family, but in a time of famine for also the ancient land of Egypt and for the surrounding world. But Joseph's life was not lived in a cushy environment, in cushioned luxury from cradle to the grave. Rather, Joseph knew the hard knocks of life. And though Joseph was the favored son of his father Jacob, yet Joseph understood the disappointments. Early in his life, he was sold for silver by his brothers, who said among themselves, "Behold, the dreamer comes," as he was checking up on them. And so it was that Joseph is sold as a slave, and his father told that Joseph has surely been consumed by a wild animal. But yet he goes down into Egypt, and there he serves faithfully. But once again, he is lied about, and he is meanly treated, and he is thrown in jail. But there also, he faithfully serves, and he does not become bitter. And even though time passes and his hopes of escape, his hopes of release are dashed, yet finally God, watching over his man, brings him out of that horrible experience, and he becomes the number 2 man in all of the great land of Egypt, and the means by which God provided redemption and salvation for a world in desperate need. But I want to take you to the very end of the story, the very end of Joseph's life. Genesis chapter 50 and verse 15, we read, "When Joseph's brothers, those ones who had sold Joseph into slavery, those who had callously said to their father, 'Oh, Joseph, he's dead. Mourn for him and let's get on with other things.'" Joseph's brothers, when they saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Joseph bears a grudge against us and pays us back in full for all the wrong which we did to him?" So they sent a message to Joseph saying, "Your father charged before he died, saying, 'Thus you shall say to Joseph, Please forgive, I beg you, the transgression of your brothers and their sin, for they did you wrong.'" Here are men whose conscience are twanging at them, whose conscience is smiting them full force for the things which had happened years and years before. They had enjoyed the privilege of coming into the land of plenty, and they had enjoyed the abundance of the food which was provided for them, but yet that conscience was alive, and it struck them. Here they find themselves in danger because Dad is no longer on the scene, no longer able to protect them should Joseph want to strike at them, want to get back in revenge all that was seemingly due to him. The brothers, they come before Joseph, and we read that Joseph wept when they spoke to him. And his brothers, they realized the power that Joseph exercised over their very lives, and see that they're no longer standing in his presence, but they fall down in front of him. Joseph had dreams previous in his early life, just as a teenager, picturing how that his brothers would come and bow before him. Here it was. But what does Joseph do? Does he take advantage of their situation? His brothers come, fall down before him, and they say, "Behold, we are your servants." It's a wonderful thing when light comes and strikes a person so that they realize things for how that they truly are. They are no longer deceived. They're no longer puffed up. But in humility, they come and they say who they really are. Here it was with Joseph's brothers. They hadn't provided this salvation for their very lives and for the lives of their families. God had provided it through the instrument of their brother. And here they are saying, "We are your servants. We are under your hand." But Joseph, he responds in this way. He says, "Do not be afraid, for am I in God's place? You meant what you did for evil against me, but God turned that around, and he has meant it, and he has brought about good in order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive. Do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones." And Joseph comforted them. He spoke graciously to them. He spoke kindly to them. Here is a portrait of God's grace through his man Joseph. When he could have struck out at his brothers, when he could have smitten them, when he could have ground them to the dirt, he reaches out to them and he speaks kindly to them. Oh, my friend, God would reach out to you. He would want you to know of his great grace. But first of all, would you take this most important step? Would you come before him? And would you say, "Lord, I don't bring anything in my hands. There is nothing that I can impress you with. There's nothing that I can dazzle you or show to you my worth. I simply come all by myself. Nothing in my hand I bring. Simply to thy cross I cling." First of all, realize who you are, that you are a sinner, that you have offended God's grace, that you have pushed it away, that you have said, "Thank you very much, I can take care of myself." But in this moment, realize, just as Joseph's brothers did, that there's nothing that you can do, and that you need God's grace extended to you. But then would you hear from the throne of God itself the words similar to Joseph, that he is going to speak kindly to you, that he is going to reach out to you in kindness, that he is going to provide for you, that even as he has provided great salvation, that you might live, and that those around you might know of his salvation as well. Would you come before him, bow the knee, declare that he is indeed Lord of all, and live for him, surrendering your very life, all of your past, present, and future to him and to him alone. Oh, the portraits of God's great grace. Would you look to God right now? Would you look to Jesus and what he did on Calvary's cross, what he finished on your behalf, and know that in him is salvation full and free, and know his life. Come before him, call upon his name, and live in Jesus' name.
Thank you for joining Pastor Barber today. Please watch for Faith to Live By again next Sunday at this same time on this same station. Until then, Faith to Live By prays that the peace of God will fill your heart and that the joy of the Lord will be your strength.